Hello guys, how are you? I hope you're having a fabulous Saturday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're actually coming in from. I've been wet this morning. It's just starting to rain in Los Angeles, and just doing some of the last training tips before the challenge. Actually, this is the challenge this week for those of you that are actually on the Patreon feed. I'm going to bring you a couple of bits of news. We've actually, obviously, a lot of you have known about the Sword Experience virtual platform. And we are now sold out. Oh dear, some of you say. Well, the only thing is we will only allow Patreon members in. There's only a few people will be allowed in. You have to be a Patreon member and show your Patreon badge if you now want to access the page, because we do have a sellout event. We have, just so that you know what's going on, for those of you that don't, we have I think 5 or 6 different trainers. We have Mark Makita, who's going to be doing Filipino martial arts. There is Chad Hawthorne, who's going to be doing guns. He's going to be showing you weapons on set guns. Then there's Keith Jennings, who's going to be doing a knife technique. There will be a bladesmith who will be showing you how to make swords. There'll be myself doing a warm-up at the beginning. Then there'll be a meditation, Anastasia, who's doing meditation expert. She's an expert doing this, so you can get your mind correct, because I think sometimes we actually have to center ourselves to do things. And then there's also, we're going to preview our Star Wars Academy, or it's going to be Jedi Academy, it's going to be Star Troopers Academy. It's going to be a Star Wars themed academy, but we're working on the licensing of the name for that at the moment, and that will be done by Richard Gainey. So that's just the presenters that we have. Then we've got Elizabeth Grayson, who's going to be coming in to do autographs and talk to you guys. You can go into her special room. And then there's also Carrie Henn, who's from Alien. She's going to be there as well. I'll be also doing autographs. And then you've got different vendors you'll be able to go through. There's going to be a CBD vendor that has different oils and creams for aches and pains and sprains and bruises. There is a mask lady that can help you with design your own mask. There is a boken manufacturer. There is a sword manufacturer. There is the Sword Experience shop going to be there as well as a salmon jerky that you can look at and buy. So it's really like a mini convention that we're really testing, and that's why we've got all these things, but we're going to expand on it next time to see what you guys think. So when you actually go through the event, I want you to tell us and give us the feedback as to what you thought went right and what went wrong, because this is really a beta test for us, and we don't know what's going to work and what people like, etc. This is why we're actually using it as a test and as a very low fee to actually come in, because we want your information on it as well. So as well, we've also launched the website just recently, which is really fun. We've finally got it out. Sorry about it took so long. But loads of you have brought in and have taken advantage of the 20% discount that we've offered up until the 25th, which is the day after tomorrow. So if you haven't gotten it, just go in there, because it's 20% off the entire site on there. We're going to be having auctions are going to be on the site as well. We got a lot of photos on the site that sometimes we've only got 1 or 2 of those photos left on there, so you can check on those. Sometimes they're in the packages, sometimes they're there as single events. Now, last thing I want to mention is, how do you work the convention? We're going to be sending all of you a demo that you can actually go through before the convention starts, so you know how to go from one room to the next to visit all of that. Plus, we also have Sword XP Vert coins. What's a Vert coin? Well, I just made it up actually. A Vert coin actually is an altcoin, but a Sword XP Vert coin is a virtual coin. It works like a gift card. You purchase a gift card if you want to buy something on the site. Any of the vendors or any of the sessions some of the trainers might be offering for later on, you can actually go and purchase a Vertcoin card, which will give you a code. It will be emailed to you, which when you go into the room with that vendor, or go into the room with that celebrity, or with the teacher, and you want to purchase something from them, you just give them the code. They will take the code, it will deduct it from the Vertcoin card that you have, and voila, the payment is already done. If you run out of money on your card, if you've put $10 on there and you want to buy something for 15 and you've only got 5 left on there, for instance, you can go back and buy another Vert card just for the difference. So you don't have to waste any money. There's no money wasted here. You'll actually go and buy the difference, and you can give 2 codes to the vendor or the celebrity, and they will deduct it from those 2 codes, and you'll be done. So if you have any of that left over, you can now go to and transfer it to the next Sword XP event, the virtual event we're going to be having at the end of February. We're going to be doing this again and again and again. We're going to be bringing different genres. We're looking into the martial arts world. We're looking into the Highlander world. We're going to bring our larger sword experience online experience for more people, because we had to cap it this time because we offered it at a pretty low price, and we had some great people come in. But next time it's going to be much larger and hopefully more interesting and longer, so that you can go and have your coffee, go and do something, come back and see somebody. You'll also be able to, when you look at the site, we'll also have a schedule so you can see who's on and who's where, all that. So it's all going to be on the site. We'll email all that to you. So it's kind of an interesting time for us to be in the new year. It's going to be an interesting year. We're going to have our live events as well. We're going to start bringing those back end of March, April time, at exterior only. And of course, we're going to be using masks on most of our events as well. Some of you agree, some of you don't, but I've got to keep everybody safe, so that's how we do any live events. But I'm kind of excited about the virtual events, purely and simply because I don't think cons and big events are going to be coming back very strongly for another year or 2. So at least at this point, you're going to be able to get to the trainers, get to the celebrities, get to the vendors. You might not ever have the ability to go and see those people one-on-one, because you'll actually be in the room with them one-on-one, and you can actually talk to them and find out what they're doing, or find out or train with them, because all the trainings you're doing is an interactive experience. You will be able to do things at home. Those of you that will actually have gotten the Sword XP Pro trainer will be able to utilize that at home or with your Boken, with some of the training that we're actually going to be working on in the event itself. We do have our first question, which was actually given to us by Becky, and she actually wanted to know whether I'm actually going to be doing specific programs for the trainer itself. Yes is the answer. Right now, we're going to be working it just for getting used to being able to use it in the room, and a lot of the exercises we're going to be doing on the Patreon level will be based for that trainer, but we'll be doing a separate program as well that we will actually be bringing out in another month or so for the trainer. So now it'll be a workout program as well as a sword program. The trainer works really well, and as some of you have seen, I've actually used it in many different situations when we're doing the Patreon training, because it's weighted. So if you have a Boken weighs about 1.25 pounds. With the trainer, it's going to be about 2.5 pounds, or you can do even more. You can actually do 4 or 5 pounds, although I wouldn't suggest it, because when you have that torque at the end of the arm, it's actually going to be a little harder to move. But those of you that are a little bigger and stronger and want to actually work with weapons that are actually heavier, it's a great tool to actually have that, that trainer available for us. Next question is, Priscilla, what will the celebrity signing be like? Well, watch. Hi, Priscilla. How are you doing? Yeah, it's nice to see you. What did you? Oh, you want number 4? Okay, so I pick up my number 4 photograph. What do you want on it, Priscilla? Oh, you want to say I'm the greatest? Hey, thank you, Adrian Paul. You are the greatest person in the world. Adrian Paul, the great. Thank you. Well, great. Okay, and we'll mail that right after this event. So, what else do you want to know about? So that's really kind of how it's going to be. So you'll be on a split screen. You'll be talking to the celebrity like you would be at a convention. They will have the signings, the actual paper stuff live, so that you can write and ask them whatever you want. You might also, depending on the celebrity, we only have 3 this time because we wanted to keep it short so you guys could get to know how it worked and we can get to know how it worked, but we've only got 3 this time, although next time I'm hoping to have a lot more. But it will basically be like you're at a convention, just you won't be live. It'll be face to face, and that way you will get we will mail them out directly afterwards. There is no shipping involved. The price on the actual page will be including shipping. We've done a base shipping on everything, so it's a really simple process. Give your code, celebrity signs in front of you, and then they'll mail it. You can also, if you want, depending on the celebrity, I think all of us will probably do it this time, is have a video shout out. which basically means it'll be less than what the Cameo is. You'll actually be live with us, and that's why we want to bring you this, so that we're live like this. We'll give you a shout out to anybody that you want on our video camera. We'll just take that link, send it to you right after the event. So that way you're going to get a video to anybody you might want to say happy birthday to, congratulations, I hate you, whatever you want to say to them, you know, well, that type of stuff. All right. Deborah. Are the classes one after another? There's a little break in between. There's about a 5-minute, 10-minute break in between on some of the classes. That's why we gave that. We only have 3.5 hours. We want to pack as much in as we could. Some of you might not want to work with all the classes that we've got. So, and also those of you that will pre-register any of the celebrity signings will get first chance to actually get into the room. So if there's a line, you will actually get into the room before anybody else, because you've pre-registered and pre-bought the item that that celebrity will be signing. So the classes will be, you'll see that the level of classes we have, and there's usually a 5-minute, 10-minute break in between each of the classes that are there, just to give you time to breathe, maybe go to see one of the vendors or see anybody else. We may try and run it a little bit longer for another half an hour, 20 minutes afterwards. If those of you are saying, oh my gosh, I want to go and purchase this from this person, we'll have people that will be on a help desk for you. We'll also have moderators in different rooms so you can talk to them. So you won't be solely left alone. There'll be a lot of people there that actually will give you back-end support, as well as what we'll be sending you this week, which will be a way to figure out how to maneuver this. All you need to do is have a camera like this on your laptop, or if you have a webcam, even better, you can actually work with the celebrity or work with the trainer at the same time. So next one, Nora, is there any particular software you need? No software. You don't. You just log into the site. That's the easy part about this. We've been working on this about 2 or 3 months now, and so it's been quite a process. There is a lot of back-end support that we do. There's no software. We'll actually email all that information to you as we go. So it's really a fairly simple process, and it works across all devices as well. It can work on iOS, it can work on Windows, you can work it on your phone, your laptop, your iPad, doesn't matter what you have. It can actually be utilized however you want to utilize it. So we're trying to sort of, again, there will be glitches. You have to give us that, because this is the first time we're doing it, the first time you're doing it, and that's why we've actually cut the price in half from what we would normally charge for this, because we have a lot of people on this event that are going to be showing you, you know, I mean, imagine if you had an hour training with one trainer, it costs you $100, you know, or $90 a session on a personal trainer, it would be $150. So for $20, you're getting 5 or 6 or 7 of these trainers, and you'll be able to work out with them. And it's not all sword work. That's what we wanted to express. This is not just all about swords, it's about the whole thing. It's all about experience. It's all about a little bit of this, a little bit of that. What are you interested in doing? So that it's not just specific to one specific genre. You can do it all across the board, depending on what your interest is. So we're going to try and do that. That's why this time we're going to start with a smaller amount, and we'll do an extended amount next time for a few more hours, maybe 6 or 7 hours during the day, and bring you a lot more people with a few more breaks in between, and that way you can visit more rooms. Carol, where is the new t-shirt? Is the phrase on the website on the new t-shirt, need more swag? Okay, new t-shirt is coming. It's in production. The new t-shirt, we had to, you know, it's tough when we have a saying. You've got to make sure that the font is right, that it's laid out correctly on the t-shirt. You know, I wanted a shirt that was a little different than what we already have, which we've already got the logo t-shirt. I wanted something that was just a cool t-shirt. We should have it. I am hoping we have it. I don't think we'll have it by the event, but we'll have it right after the event. We also will have a sweatshirt. So it's not just going to be a t-shirt, it's going to also be on a couple of different items. We're also looking at possibly a couple of different colors. So we're expanding our merchandise so that you know, you have more options to do. But it should look pretty cool. It's looking great at the moment. Because we've taken the style and we've designed it to a specific thing. So I'm kind of excited to see it. We've got it in with our distributor at the moment. And he said to us he's going to send us the samples, because we need to make sure we saw the samples. So hopefully we'll have those in a day or so, and then we can throw it into production, and that will take just a couple of days. I doubt we'll have it before the event, but who knows? But we'll definitely have it. Do you like my background at the moment? I'm kind of liking this. It's the skiing thing. I was actually thinking of a hot chocolate today, you know, kind of sitting here like doing it. It's the crackling of the fire. You know, actually in Los Angeles at the moment, it's skiing weather. I was going to go skiing this week with my kids because we actually have a cabin through a friend up there, and there's a lot of snow happening, but I was like, I can't do it this week. I've got way too much going on. Anyway, Claudia says, did I ever catwalk? Which designers and which is, what experiences did I have? Yes, I used to do catwalk. Thank you for a different, because now we've got to get on to the next subject. Yeah, I did, when I modeled a couple of years back, I did catwalk. Catwalk was one of the things I used to love to do, and I actually got into it by accident. It was the very first show I ever had, was a designer show, and I can't remember which designer it was. It was in England, and the Princess Margaret was sitting in the front row, and I was like, oh yes, I want to do this, and I got brought in at the very last minute because somebody fell out. And they said Adrian can probably do it, so I said okay, great, and I get brought in, and I'm given this outfit, which is a black outfit. I remember it now, black outfit with like it was a shirt with like made out of like a nylon fabric with a very kind of see-through type of shirt and a silk jacket on the top. Well, both of them together, this jacket was on here, it kept falling down. By the time I got on the stage, I was actually kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in front of Princess Margaret. Oh. So I get out on the catwalk and I walk down the catwalk and I'm walking, and as I'm walking, I'm feeling this jacket begin to go down, but I'm so petrified about making a mistake because it's the first time I've done this that I just let it come down. By the time I get to the end of the catwalk, it's about down here, which probably didn't look very good. So apparently what I did, and I guess I did it subconsciously or whatever, I don't know. I turned around, wiggled my butt and put the jacket on and walked away. After that, I was known as the butt because it's the first time Princess Margaret had actually seen that, I think. So I walked away. That was one of my experiences. After that, I did different catwalks. I worked a lot in Europe for, I worked in Germany actually for a company called Quelle, which is a catalog company, Quelle. I probably have just killed the name, but I traveled around Germany for quite a while, 2 or 3 years of doing this process, going from one city to the next, putting on these shows. And then I did Adidas, I did Colmar, I did all these sportswear shows. I did those types of shows. So there were all different types of designers. I did for Head, I did for a lot, I can't even remember, fur companies. It was a variety of different things. And sometimes they were just catwalk shows, or other times they were choreographed shows. So in other words, there was actually some movement in them depending on what it was we were doing, because you can't really sort of show a tennis outfit, you know, so you've got to be doing the tennis stuff in it and looking, you know, tennisy. But you know, so there was a variety of things. Mark, any thoughts for the name on the Sword Esprit kata and possibly for variations? All right, so the kata on the Sword Esprit kata, the very first one, no, I have no idea. I called it the beginning, I suppose. I'll call it something else. But again, at one point I actually mentioned for you guys to explain what that was, what that kata was going to be. Now, what I've done is, you've asked about variations. I have varied it in the past 3 or 4 sessions that we've had, going to different areas, purely and simply because when you do a movement this way, you can do it that way, but it will change the way you're thinking about it if you go this way with it instead of this way with it. So I've changed up a couple of those angles compared to what we did it originally. I haven't given it a name quite yet because I wanted to really solidify it, because whenever you create a kata like this, you want to make sure things are correctly done and that everything is working. You know, we've adjusted a couple of things, a couple of footwork things, a couple of ways one of the Boken parries has been adjusted. So I'll think about it, but any suggestions from you guys will actually, it'll be your own kata that you've actually created. And right now we're on to the variation of it, where I've changed 2 or 3 of the angulations and the directions using exactly the same moves, purely and simply because you can do the same movements if you're going from here or from here. It really depends on what the attack is coming from, but what it is going to really apply is your footwork. That's really what's actually going to change it for you, because you've got to be able to move and got to be able to adapt when you get attacked from different areas. Now that doesn't mean it's just for choreography, that's also in real life. If you're in a fight or something, you can't say, wait a minute, I know the move from this angle, this is how I'm supposed to do it. You've got to be able to adapt very quickly. Same thing in choreography, and I mentioned this in the challenge this week, that when you're doing choreography, sometimes you make a mistake. Sometimes the other person makes a mistake. It might be something in the middle. But if you keep on going, you can get back onto that choreography and nobody will know you made a mistake, because you're actually able to adapt. Your brain has already gotten used to that particular movement, and you can adapt if somebody comes slightly lower or some other angle at you, so that you can change what you're doing and just make it look like it was supposed to happen. Claire, as a director, do I ever try to convey a particular message to affect people's minds and hearts? Oh gosh, yes. You know, as a director, you know, I mean, I've done things. I did it to Elizabeth Grayson once. She hated me for it, but you know, there's two aspects here. One is when you are watching a piece, there is a certain feeling or a certain moment that a director will ask for or try to convey in a scene. And every director will have different ideas on this, because some of them will want to see the entire piece and they'll be more into the visuals of it and they'll let the actors create it. But other directors, like myself, will want to know where the key moments are in that particular script or in that particular story that you're giving. And sometimes those scenes, you need a certain type of emotion or a certain type of element to come out of that. And as a director, I did something with Elizabeth one time, where it was actually during shooting Highlander, where it needed an emotional content to get there. And she wasn't kind of getting it. I was directing her, and she wasn't quite getting what I wanted from her. So I started being I started being a little unkind to her, and it made her upset. And then she was in the middle of the scene, and it got her. But then she came afterwards. She says, "You didn't need to do that. I could get there." But you know, as a director, the other thing you got to realize is that we're on a time budget. If we don't get it in on time, it's got to be done. So I apologize, but you know, I'll use certain techniques like that depending on what actor it is in front, because every actor works differently. You know, so if you're trying to affect a mood or trying to create a certain feeling that comes across, you've got to know how that actor works and what triggers you can do to get them to get there. I mean, I had a director at one point say to Sandra Bullock, who I was working with at the time, you know, he said, you know, I want this and at that line. So she was like, what? You want me to go in the middle of the line? And that is a result oriented. A director wanted this thing, this kind of like, really, you're telling me? But he wasn't explaining it right. He wasn't, and I don't know if the way she worked was that was the correct way to tell her to do it. So it really is dependent on what that actor is, and you have to know who that actor is to really give them the right notes. Sue, the picture I shared on Instagram, can you let me know which one is you? The one on Instagram I shared. I actually have a call right after this with 3 of my school buddies who I've since connected back up with in this pandemic, as well as the entire class, not in that one, but the next school I went up. They kind of got in touch, and they're supposed to be having a big Zoom call this week. And boy, does everybody look different. A lot of them I looked at and went, who's that? I have no idea. Then suddenly they'll start talking or doing something. I'm like, oh, it's him. They probably do the same with me. But in that particular picture, you can't back. I think I'm back in the land of, oh,
There.
I think I'm back. Hello, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm looking very red at the moment. So anyways, I was saying, Sevi was sleeping next to me here in the middle, and he just turns over and goes, whack. I go right on the edge of the nose. So, but what a great kid he is. It's so different. It's such a different experience having, I can't believe how kids are so different from the beginning. It's not afterwards that you're teaching them, but, I don't know, it just really is that. Now, Karine is asking how to get more stamina and energy. Do you mean how will you get more stamina and energy? Don't eat meat, that's one. Sorry about that for you meat eaters. But stamina and energy, a lot of the time comes from the vitamins you have and what you're eating. And certain things make you lethargic. And you can look it up online if you want. If you ask God, why am I lethargic? Or why don't I have as much energy? Sometimes it's a vitamin or a mineral you're missing in your diet. It could be something to do with your liver that's not working correctly, that creates the enzymes so you don't have it. Check it up online. I can't give you, because it's really hard to know. Everybody's specific about how much energy they have. But, I sleep now at the moment 5-6 hours a night. I mean, I just don't have time. I'm up until 2 in the morning. I've got a presentation I'm doing for a huge thing we're doing in Europe at the moment on my other business. I've got a directing gig that might be happening later in the year. I've got the Sword Experience online virtual going. We launched the website. I've got the training programs. We've got Patreon. There's so much stuff that's going on. I don't have time to sleep. So, but I've got the energy. You've got to take the rest occasionally. I work 6 days a week now because, with kids at home, I've got 3 kids and my wife says, can you pick them up to do this? Can you take them to this event? So I have to break my day up and go there and go do this or stay home for 3 or 4 hours in the morning instead of going to the office to deal with what I've got to deal with. So sometimes what I end up doing is ending my day at 6, going home, giving the kids some food, helping them because I always feed Sevi at night. I put him to bed. It might be 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night before he goes to sleep sometimes because his schedule keeps changing. And then I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to finish some work off. So the energy is the important part of knowing what you're eating and having the right vitamins, because that really does affect your mood. And the other thing is, sleep does as well. If you get the right amount of sleep, it doesn't matter whether it's 8 hours, 7 hours, 6 hours, but a good solid sleep is good to have. And then have a nap during the day. The other thing that really centers you a lot of the time is meditation and having a quick nap. Margaret Thatcher used to have a nap every day. Trudeau, from what I understand, 20 minutes. They go and take a 20-minute nap. It refreshes your brain and starts you moving again. So, if you've got the time to have a 20-minute nap, have a nap, because it really does help. Somebody wants me to repeat the Instagram story again. Okay, so you missed it. All right, so you didn't like my dulcet tones. You needed me to see it. Okay, so the Instagram story, I think, was the one about the... which one was it? Was it the one about the reunion? Oh, the reunion with the guys. Oh, okay. So the one I am is the one on the right side, just so that you know. I've already mentioned it. It's the picture that I'm on the far right. If you're looking at the picture, this way around, right? So I'm on the right side of your screen. But a lot of the guys a lot of the guys that were in that picture, there's only 1 or 2 guys there that I recognised, funnily enough. But there were many people that were... I have a call right after this with 3 of my friends. They were my closest friends, actually. And then through that, we got connected to the rest of the entire class who are now having Zoom calls. And I went on a call about 2-3 weeks ago with the entire group. And it was hard to recognize a lot of them. I mean, I remember one guy who was actually... well, it was just hard to recognize. It was hard to recognize some of them. And then when they start talking and doing it, I'm like, oh, that's him. Oh, my God. But I'm probably the same. I've probably, changed a lot since that time. I mean, we're talking a few years back. But, the funny thing is that, eventually you kind of fall back into it. And, the humor and the stuff, it doesn't really change. my three closest friends that I have, one of them actually happened to live behind my mom's house that now is no longer. It's kind of weird that, you got, when you sell your house, there is, and because my mom died a year ago, and when that's gone, it's a really weird, when both of your parents are gone, it's weird, because now it's another era. Now it's the next step, but you've got to really sort of move past that grief that you have into the next portion of your life. But now it's taken us a year and just over a year and a half now almost to sell the house. Not because it was not selling, but because the probate in England, they take 40% in death tax, or what they call inheritance tax. 40%. They give you a stipend, in other words, that you don't have to pay up to this amount. Every parent gets, I think it's a certain amount, and then you add those two amounts together, and then you pay the tax on top of whatever your estate is worth. But even still, the paperwork and the stuff to go through, and then I just don't get it. I mean, maybe some of you work for the government, but really I don't care. I don't get why we pay taxes on something our entire lives, give it to our kids, and then they've got to pay tax on their death. What is that? Anyway, next one. Sarita, did I produce the movie I shot in Navosta, Texas last February? I didn't shoot a movie in Navosta, Texas last February. Did I? Maybe it was some place, I don't know. Where was I in Navosta, Texas last February? Where was I last February, David? Was I anywhere last February? I think last February.
It was right before COVID.
It was right before COVID. I was having a baby last February. I don't know about you. I produced that one. I definitely produced that one. I didn't go to Navosta. I did do a sword experience event in, I think it was Navosta. Actually, yeah, I think that was a sword experience event we did. And, that little thing that we do, now the sword experiences have become mini little scenes or little movies. We're trying to make them more interesting so that we'll have some special effects in there now. We'll have, some visual. We'll create a story that people go through. So there's like a role you're playing. And we actually, shot that when I looked at the place that it was the location we had. That's always the hard part, because to make it interesting rather than just training, to get a story in there and balance it with the correct amount of training as well as the correct amount of time to learn the choreography and produce an interesting little clip is tough. Sometimes, we did an event in Tampa that was, I think was rushed for some people for the amount of time they had to learn certain things. And, when you try new things, sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. And you learn from them. So, but we're always trying to come up with new things so that people don't get bored. I mean, look at this Sword Experience Virtual. That's going to be really interesting, because there's going to be so much more we can bring you. But the events themselves, the location alone is fun. The people you meet is different. The style of the sword work is going to be different. So we're really, trying to bring new things all the time. And I think that was one we did on the ranch. John says, I love I'm so honest about my feelings and beliefs. You know what? I'm too old not to be now. Screw it. I'll basically I'll basically turn around and I'll give about 90% of what I think most of the time. Because sometimes if I get into certain things, then it becomes a battle of this and that. I try and keep balance in anything I say, and not to be too opinionated on one thing or another. I mean, politics for me is a very tricky thing. The one thing I must say at the moment regarding the situation we have in the United States right now is get on with it, guys. I mean, really, everybody, this whole storming the Capitol thing, I understand people are upset, but they were upset when Trump came in, and they were upset when Obama came in, and people, not everybody's going to get it, but the whole point of this is we've got to move on together. If you don't move together, you're split apart. It's just going to get worse. And I understand there's people who have strong feelings, but you know what? Life is too short. Your life is your life. Live it. Don't get angry at things, because there's no point. What's the point? You just end up being an old grumpy person living in some grumpy little place, and what's the point of that? You know, those of you that believe there's an afterlife, then you'll realize there's an afterlife. And there's actually a show that I just watched on Netflix that talks about people that have had near-death experiences. And it's a really interesting thing to see that there are people that, a lot of people have this, whether you believe it or not, but they have experienced seeing people that have died before them as they go through that near-death experience. And there's many people go through this thing. And so I believe there is an afterlife. I believe I've been here before, purely and simply because there's certain things that I do, sword work for instance, I'm so used, when I first picked up a sword, it was really easy for me. And it was so bizarre because after I'd done that, I went to see not a psychic, but he was a channeler. And he'd said to me, you came here, actually, you've done what you do now in a different way, in a different life, you've done the same type of thing. And, you know, he said, you helped kids, you actually were a warrior, so it's bizarre that, and I think that's why I feel very easy or clean on doing things. I think all of us have that. All of us have things that we are very accustomed to doing, or it's easy for us to do. And you don't know why, but it's in our DNA. So, you know, I kind of bring that to people that do sword work, actors that come on set. Everybody wants to do sword because it's in our DNA. We've done this for thousands of years. At some point, either it's been channeled down through our parents, our ancestors, etc., that DNA of being able to do that movement, or you've done it before in another life and you've got those memories locked in your system that basically allows you to do that. Whatever you believe, I still believe that there are you know, remnants of another life somewhere here. And I don't believe that, you know, we die here and it's done. Whether you believe it or agree with me is okay, because that's part of the point of what I was talking about, the political thing. You've got an opinion, I've got an opinion. I want to respect your opinion. You've got to respect mine. We have a difference of opinion. I like black, you like red. Okay, great. I like green, you like orange. I mean, what's the difference? Does that make me a bad person? And sometimes we take it to the nth degree, and unfortunately, this whole thing about fake news is very true. And it's fake news, but on both sides it's fake news. This has been going on. And remember, fake news didn't just start. Fake news started back in Hitler's time, back in the 1940s, when propaganda was started. That's really when it started. And it's been going on ever since, and people have found different ways to manipulate it now and bring it into our lives. Most of the things you watch on computer, when you go and search something, the AI already registers what you're looking at. So it feeds you more of that. You look at hate, you're going to be fed more videos of hate about things you're looking at. If you look at, you're going to get fed that. So you've got to really separate yourself from what you're watching and have an opinionated view rather than going, well, this is what I believe. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican or a liberal, or it doesn't matter what it is. You really have to make up your own mind rather than being brought across. This part of you knows what it really is that is right or wrong. So anyway, that's kind of my spiel on that. So let's move on to the next question. Sue says, what would it take to unite our country? A lot of patience. A lot of, you know, the hardest thing for anybody to do is to forgive. And I say that, I mean, it's the hardest thing to do. Whether you know, there are people that have had loved ones killed, and some of them will go to the killer and forgive them. That must be the hardest thing to do. So why could we not forgive somebody that has a different opinion than us? Why can't we just say, let's move on, let's see what the benefit, what's the good we can get out of this situation, rather than let's attack it because I don't like it. So until we get through that, that is really what I think we need to look at, is how do you find the good in something? And that's really a hard thing. It's really, that's the path you live, the path you live on this life. And this is what I found throughout my time here, I just dropped my mic, is that, you know, you're going to go on a path and you're going to get decisions as you go along. This is why, actually, I wanted to write a book, which I was thinking of doing a few years back, and I probably will do at some point. But it's probably going to be called Your Dreams Never Come True. And people are going to go, oh, what does that mean? Because what you look at, what you see when you're younger, you want to go to here. I want this. But to get from here to here, there are a lot of decisions you've got to make along the way. And when you get to a certain point in your path, you're going to have to go left or right. There's no in between. It's black or white. You're going to either get that mortgage on the house or you're not going to get it. You're going to either accept that job or you're not going to accept it. And when you do that, you're going to be going on this path. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to get to this area, but the way you get there, you might end up going and ending up here. It might not be exactly what you thought of along the way because it's all based on the decisions you make. My point is, why not make those decisions be on a positive side rather than a negative? Rather than turn around and say, you know what, I hate this thing and I'm not going to do that. You're just creating more angst for yourself, not for anybody else. Because the problem is going to be with you. It's not going to be with the other person, although you're going to actually create hate with them or a problem with them. But you're going to be left with the residue of what it is you've got. So every time I try and get to the point, I mean, there's certain times I want to lose my temper with things. You know, I think having 3 kids has really taught me not to go off at the deep end, not to, it's, you know, oh, I've got to take a step back. You know, when my son Royce goes off and does something and starts screaming, I've got to not go, don't do that, I'm going to smack you around the head. You know, I've got to go, Royce, what is it? I've got to think about what I'm going to do and say before I do it. We're so reactionary now on social media that it causes many more problems. And so that's one of the things I think we have to learn as a culture. And the entire planet has to learn that and stop being, you know, go with what Joe Blow over here says you should do. And you go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. You know, make your own decisions and see what good you can get out of it rather than the bad part. Because everybody knows the difference between good and bad. There's no, whether you're going to do it, you know whether you're doing something wrong. Whether you're going to go and storm the Capitol or whether you're going to go and smack somebody in the face or whether you're going to go, you know it's not necessarily the right thing that I would necessarily be doing. Is this how I want to spend my Saturday afternoon? I want to stand up for my rights, but I want to do it. I want to protest. I want to do these things and I want to do it in a way that is civil and I can get my point across. I don't think there will be a point, unfortunately, because that's the cerebral way of looking at it. But the reality is, I think the humans, in total honesty, I think we don't learn from the past. And I think that's part of the problem, is that we end up doing the same things over and over and over and over again. And we'll end up, you know, I mean, think about this country. This country is split 50-50 at the moment. When that happens, and you have such a volatile on both sides, that ends up in a fight. And with people with so easy to pick up guns, it could end up being World War III or revolution or in certain areas. The unrest we have in certain cities now is disgusting. Not only from one side or the other, it's from anybody. You weren't born in a political party, you were born a human being. You were born as a person. You know whether you're going to knock that lampshade over, whether that's a good thing to do or a bad thing. Is that good energy or bad energy? Real simple. All right, I'm done. Have I set any goals for myself in the new year? Yes. One of them was actually to try, I actually said this once before, was to try and be a little bit more patient, especially or understanding with you know, my wife and the things that she has to go through every day, because she's actually locked up with the kids all the time, and you know, she's got her things. So I come home from work, and you know, some of the things you have to be understanding of somebody else's situation, try and put yourself in their shoes. Again, that's a hard thing to do because you've got your thing, especially in this pandemic. In this pandemic, we are locked inside. We are in an area where we are on a virtual platform like we are right now. And it's harder. We're social human beings. And I think that's really what it is. I'm looking at ways to actually try to reach more people in that and be understanding as to what their issues are. And that, I think, goes back to my last thing. Let's be more understanding of other people and what their issues are. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them. Doesn't mean it. It means you have to adapt and try and figure out how you work around that situation. You know, I might not want to be at home the entire time, you know, looking after the kids, but you know, maybe I should adapt and spend a couple of hours doing this or that. And then I can adapt and do something else. So I think that's really kind of where I've looked at, because this year for me, I am 100% certain this is going to be a great year. I'm 100% certain, just because of it's really strange. I think by putting stuff out that is positive, you get stuff that you weren't even thinking about coming back to you. And I've found that with some people that have come back into my life that have brought me some rewards, and I wasn't even looking for it. But it's because I've kind of put that forward. I think you really have to motivate yourself to push yourself forward. When we're in this situation of the COVID situation, we're really been handed either a blessing or a curse. And by that I mean you either can wallow in the fact that you don't have the ability to go to work or do something or visit your parents or do something, or you can try and find a way around that and adapt that. I think we have to be out and about and social, but we have to do it carefully because human beings are social beings. There are mental issues and a lot of issues that will come with being solitary animals. And it's not, you know, human beings are not solitary animals, they are social beings. Therefore, we have to interact with people. So I would suggest that would be something, and that's something I'm trying to work on myself. So Deborah says she's watching the training videos. Was it difficult wearing a mask and shield? No, actually it wasn't. That was really weird. I actually thought it was going to be, but 3 hours went by, you know, because everybody's like, oh, I'm going to wear this mask. No, it actually wasn't. It was quite easy to do. Eventually, after like 3 or 4 hours, you're kind of like, okay, I've got to take this thing off. But that's where you have breaks in between. But no, it wasn't. It was pretty easy. And I actually saw a comment one time on one of the feeds where we actually delivered the video from, I think the first one I did was actually Santa Clara. And somebody said, this is ridiculous. What's the point in wearing a mask? There's no point in doing this. I'm like, you know what? Thank you for your opinion. But I find that you've got to adapt, and it isn't as bad as you think doing that. We had 42 people in Pittsburgh wearing masks. They came on and off when they were in the right areas, but everybody had a good time, and everybody, you know. So my point is, don't wallow in the point of like, oh, I'm not wearing a mask, I don't want to do this event because I'm not doing the mask. What's the point of that? Adapt. Say, oh, let's wear the mask, let's try it. You know, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but we got to carry on, we got to move on, we got to do training, we got to be social, we got to do those things. So if there's a way to do that and you have to adapt to it, adapt. Francois, how's my French disease? Would you ever do a cameo in French or another language? Mais bien sûr. Je veux faire, tu veux que je fasse quelque chose maintenant? J'ai un petit-fille, ma fille, mon cousin et mon fils, ils sont dans une école française en ce moment. Alors, je dois parler français. Aussi, j'ai un, comment ça s'appelle en français? Je ne suis pas sûr. C'est le partner. Il est français aussi et il ne savait pas que je parle français. Alors, oui, je fais... E se tu vuoi posso anche parlare italiano, perché italiano è un'altra lingua. Io faccio qualcosa oggi, infatti, che devo parlare italiano. È una cosa che mi piace parecchio. So doing cameos in different languages is not too bad for me. I don't want to do Chinese because I don't know that one. But I just did one this morning just to say happy birthday in Russian. So I might learn a couple of words in Russian. You know, there's a couple of places I know a little bit of German. Don't hold me to that in a conversation, but you know, I could say you know, different things. My German's terrible at the moment, so I'm not going to even try it. But yeah, I'll do those. They're kind of fun to do. I like being challenged. John, thoughts on the role in the Series C? Such a unique show. Yes, that is not going to happen now. That's actually didn't work out, unfortunately. So I won't be on that show, unfortunately. But moving on to the next one, right? So that's the way that one. Sometimes it works. Pandemic changed a lot of different things, so that was timing. And now, if I did, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys, would I? But there's a few other things I've got coming down the pipe as well, and you know, I'm kind of interested in seeing where those things are going to take it as well. Again, you know, I'm looking at my career now as being different. You know, I may go more into directing. You know, obviously this this platform is going to be interesting to do, and see how much time I actually have to do it. But I'm still very interested in acting, and I've got a couple of roles I'm going up for right now. So you'll be able to see what that is when we put it on the social media. Anyway, Claudia says, Adrian for president. No, forget that. I would never want to be president, purely and simply because it's too tough of a job. I mean, every president that's come out of there, including the Trump that's just left right now, looks older and worn out. I mean, they're like, oh my, because the things they have to deal with. I mean, you and I sit there and have to deal with everyday life and all the troubles and the things you've got. They've got 100 more things to think about, and the issues are much greater, and the decisions they do are much more intense. I mean, some of them, you know, their sleep patterns must be really hard. I mean, I know some of them go and play golf a lot of the time. It seems to be something a lot of presidents do. I don't know what that is, but you know, it's. I don't think being in that type of a position it can be rewarding to a point, but I think it's a tough job to do. We've got 5 minutes left, guys. So bring in any other questions you got, and you know, I just wanted you also to take a look. What you're seeing on this screen right now is exactly what it looked like on Big Bear. When I came back, I went to Big Bear for skiing for 2 days with my kids, and it snowed. Like when we were up there, it was like 1.5 feet of snow. And the place was so magical. It was such a, you know, sometimes you make a decision and you don't even think you're going to get what you get, but you made a decision and said, you know what, let's just go up there. We had a friend that had a cabin. We'll rent a cabin for him and we'll go up there. And it snowed and it looked like a fairy tale. The lake was slightly frozen. Everywhere the trees were covered in about this much snow. The tops of the houses looked like gingerbread houses. You know, they had these little cabins. It was so amazing. So sometimes, you know, I wanted you to get an idea of what it was for me and what it would probably be like up Big Bear this end, you know, in a couple of days, because it's going to rain here in LA and snow too. Somebody's asked, how's the family in the new year? Family's good. You know, as I said, you know, we're all getting through it, but you know, we have arguments all the time. I mean, my wife is, you know, having to deal with 3 kids, 2 of them on Zoom, and one of them breastfeeding still and trying to get food, and then there's the dog, and then there's all the other stuff we've got to do. You know, everybody has their things. So it's the question of like, let's take a breather. Let's, you know, one thing we've really instilled in the past 3-4 weeks again, is having family meals. And I think it's important to do, because all of a sudden you now start talking about stuff you wouldn't necessarily talk about. The kids are sitting down watching TV or on the iPad or the iPhone or whatever. You don't get that interaction, and it's really tough to suddenly realize where your kids are at and what they're talking about. And you know, you'll find so much stuff. It's just, what is it, half an hour to eat, because the kids are eating really quick. Okay, my kids like, they'll eat and then they'll just leave the table. I'm like, no. Sit back down again. Ask whether you can leave the table and take your plate and put it in the sink. Don't have to wash it, but just do that. So we're trying to instill in them a sense of duty and do, you know, to do this type of thing. So there you go. For Christmas, yes, my wife was surprised with a new car, but she was actually surprised with something else much bigger than that, actually, which she actually liked even better. She knew the car was coming, but she didn't know which one it was. And she's got another surprise coming too, because I've done something to the car that she doesn't know I'm doing. I just beefed it up a little bit. A guy, what can I tell you? And no, but I promised my wife years ago, I never got her an engagement ring. So it's been years. We've been married now 10 years, 11 years, I think it is now. And you know, I'd never gotten her an engagement ring, so I surprised her with a big rock this Christmas, and she was like, "What? Oh my God!" You know, and then she told her mum, and her mum was like, "Oh my God, you got this ring? It's hard, you know, it's all that stuff." Anyway, so I think that was, you know, the price difference is huge compared to a car and a ring, but it's still, you know, I think having that rock on your finger was a good personal present, rather than something you're going to drive the kids around anyway. So look, we have spent an hour together, and I thank you again for coming onto the Patreon and spending time with what we do there. We're constantly trying to change it. We're trying to bring more stuff to you. With the limited amount of resources we have to bring you this, the positive suggestions of what we might be able to do is great. And sharing it with other people and telling them about it is also great. Letting us know what is working, what is not, is also good. We are trying, sometimes, you know, it might be a day that I miss to bring you Lifestyle Essentials, or the training video might be a day late, but we'll always bring it to you. You know, it's just that we have so much stuff going on right now. I'd hate to just cut Patreon off and say, I don't have the time to do it. There may be a time we're going to do that. But it's been we've now been doing this for about 8 or 9 months, and it's worked well so far. We've changed things up a little bit, and I think we have been successful in giving you a lot of content to sort of stopgap a lot of the things that we're going through at the moment. So I hope you've enjoyed them. I hope you continue to enjoy them, and you know, I hope to see you this week on our Sword XP virtual with our Vert coins, and you'll have a good time doing that. But let us know what it is. We'll always keep you up to date, and we get back to you as soon as possible as we can, because I really believe customer experience is really all about it. If you don't have a good time, I want to know about it. It'll come through my channels, but I'll find out about it, and I'll put up a response to whatever issue that you have. So I hope you have a fabulous week and a fabulous month. I hope you continue training. Those of you who are just watching Patreon for the hell of it, great. I like that too. So hope to see you next week. And for me now, I'm just going to enjoy the fire. I'll get my coffee or my cocoa, which is actually, to tell you what, in Big Bear, they're a great place to have hot chocolate. But I'll bring you that next time. All right, see ya. Let me look out the window.